What's going on, YouTube? Bacon here, bringing another video. This one certainly overdue. I uploaded my last few regular season matches for LD Minors quite a while ago, but I never got around to uploading playoffs, so I want to show you guys that as well, since it is one of the last leagues that I played in prior to taking my break / retirement or whatever, which I am currently enjoying very much, the break from Pokemon. I've still been around, and I've been helping some people prep for other leagues and things like that, just to kind of stay, I guess relevant if I do end up deciding to come back. But for now, I've been enjoying being able to do other things, play other things that I've kind of been backlogged on my list during the time that I was playing Pokemon. So certainly enjoying it for now, and I can't really tell you when or if I would be planning to come back. It seems more like when lately, just because I've been getting that itch to play again, and all the new Pokemon are coming out, or some of the new Pokemon are coming out with the new DLC for Pokemon. So we don't know exactly, I guess, at this point how many forms there will be. Actually, by the time this gets uploaded, we probably will. But as of right now, I haven't really looked into anything as far as the new DLC is concerned and how many new Pokemon there are outside of like the birds and Calyrex and things like that. So, and the new Regis, but definitely maybe some new Toy Syndrome that would rope me back in. I've actually never played in a league with Urshifu either, because it has been that long since I've taken my break. But yeah, it's just kind of a brief update on me and where I'm at with Pokemon. I definitely do want to come back. I'm just not really quite sure that I'm ready yet, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyways, kind of going back to the match here. So this is the first round of the playoffs. For those of you who don't know, LD's playoffs are a little bit different than most people's. The way they do it is they have the 1 and 2 seeds get buys straight to the semifinals game where they play each other. So you skip basically 2 rounds and play each other directly in the semifinals match, and winner goes on to the finals match, while everybody else is kind of in a tiered sort of tournament style system. So the 4 seed plays the... Is that right? No. The 5 seed plays the 8 seed, and the 6 seed plays the 7 seed in the first round. And the winners of those play the 3 and 4 seeds, who also get a first round bye. So 1 and 2 seeds get 2 byes essentially. 3 and 4 seeds get 1 bye, and then everybody else has just got to play their way through the gauntlet. So because I did lose my last regular season match against Hava, I am coming into this game as the number 8 seed. Yeah, I was the 8 seed for this game. So just barely kind of made it in, but I guess it was like kind of comfortable. There was a little bit of a gap between 8 and 9. I think I had 1 extra win or something like that. So I wasn't super stressed out after losing the game to Haba that I was going to miss playoffs, but there was potential for me to do so. But I've always said, like, as long as you get into playoffs, there's no barrier to you winning. Like, being the 8 seed, being the 1 seed doesn't really matter, because Pokemon is Pokemon. Sometimes you'll have a good matchup, sometimes you'll get some hacks in your favor, things like that. So pretty much anything can happen once you're in playoffs. You just got to get there in the first place, and we did. So unfortunately, we are facing off against Nunes, who destroyed me basically in the first week of the season. It was only a 3-0, I think, in the final, but it really felt worse than that when I was playing it. Really just kind of got blindsided by Restock Swampert was the main thing, and kind of my inability to deal with AV Tangrowth. Looking at the matchup the first time around, I was like, Latios has no switch-ins. I can just Calm Mind up with Life Orb, drop a Draco and KO something, just cover Scizor with Mystical Fire, and I'll be good. That's not really what ended up happening, because he did bring the AV Tangrowth, and I just kind of kept dropping Dracos into it and switching out, which was obviously much more efficient for him because he has Regenerator. So that was something I kind of wanted to fix a little bit coming into this matchup. Tangrowth is still a little bit of a problem for my team, but I expect to see AV again, so coming into the game at least knowing that is good ahead of time. Last time I was totally taken aback by it because I just wasn't thinking about that in prep for whatever reason, as being a potential Latios check, but it ended up really costing me in the match. A couple other things that he had on his team that I was a little bit worried that I might see this game would be the Reuniclus. Like, last time I brought AV Drapion to deal with the Reuniclus just because I was pretty scared of that thing. Like OTR Reuniclus with Shadow Ball, for example, is very dangerous for my team. Probably something like Psychic Shadow Ball Focus Blast could be really dangerous for my team to deal with. Just kind of, if you guys recall my team, I don't really have, outside of Drapion, a good resist to Reuniclus, right? So bringing AV Drapion that game seemed to make some sense in my head, because he had that, and he also had the Hydreigon, which I thought did still have some potential to come. Like, I do have Sylveon on the squad, but Sylveon into Nidoking Scizor is just really not a great look for me, and even Talonflame, really not a great look for me. He's also added Colossal to this team since the last time we played, so I felt like he probably had enough things to deal with Sylveon that if he wanted to, he could have brought Hydreigon, but certainly glad to not see it. And that kind of is one of those aspects where you play somebody the first time and you figure out, okay, what are they thinking about the matchup, and you come back with kind of an idea of, okay, they didn't want to bring the Reuniclus, they didn't want to bring the Hydreigon, I can take advantage of that in my prep a little bit. So that's essentially what I ended up doing here. I brought the Rotom Heat, excuse me, the Rotom Heat, Mamoswine, Latios, Aerodactyl, Girder, and Jellicent. Oh, my screen's frozen. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I brought into this the Rotom Heat, Mamoswine, Latios, Aerodactyl, and Girder this round. So, a couple things right off the bat. Like, Rotom Heat is very similar to last time, because obviously Restock Swampert is going to shut down most variants of Rotom Heat that don't have like Nasty Plot Hex, for example, that you can put status on the Swampert and then hex it later. So Nasty Plot Hex is really the only thing I saw breaking through it, but I didn't think that would be a great bring in this matchup. So what I elected to bring instead was kind of just like a standard bulky Rotom Heat to help deal with the Scizor. I do have a lot more Fizz Def this time, so last time I actually crept the Nidoking, and I felt like that wasn't really worth it for me in the end. So this time I elected to run a little bit slower. Pain Split, Overheat, Toxic, and Defog. Defog is really nice for my Aerodactyl, obviously, having repeated switch-ins, especially since, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's really my only reliable Lopunny check, so I kind of felt like it had to come. But Toxic obviously will pressure any kind of non-Restock variant of Swampert. It's also not a bad kind of mid-ground play if like Tangrowth is in front of me, for example. Getting a Toxic off on that would be really nice for me. And Overheat's kind of self-explanatory. I've got to have something to hit the Scizor. I did elect to go with no electric move this time, just because last time I did run Volt Switch, but I felt like, what am I using Volt Switch on in this game? Like, Talonflame obviously isn't going to do anything to me besides Toxic me itself, so I'm fine putting that thing on a timer. It would help out my Girder quite a bit to do so, and I really didn't feel like I needed the Volt Switch in this matchup, especially if Swampert's just going to block it every time anyway. I also brought Mamoswine once again. I think I did not change the Mamoswine set if I recall correctly. Stealth Rock, Icicle Crash, Ice Shard, and Earthquake with Life Orb. Adamant Nature, like that kind of Mamoswine is just really good in this matchup. Ice moves pressure him pretty hard with the exception of like Scizor, but Scizor certainly doesn't want to eat an Adamant, Life Orb, Earthquake, especially if he's offensive, and he did bring Banded last time, so I'm relatively expecting to see that again, or some kind of Sword Dance Life Orb set, but all that being said, like I felt like Mamoswine had a really good matchup and really was hard to pass up bringing it again, especially when I couldn't fit Stealth Rock on anything else on this team, and I felt like Stealth Rock were kind of mandatory this game. Next up, I did tweak my Latios set a little bit. I did think that Calm Mind, Draco, Mystical Fire, Roost was still the best set to run, but I really messed up my investment a little bit. Messed up as in just changed it up. Ran it a lot bulkier, almost max HP Latios to deal with Lopunny to some extent. Not that I'm going to be switching in on it, but it shouldn't be able to like easily revenge kill me was my thought going into the game. Like even if he clicks a U-turn, that's maybe doing like 50-60% depending on if he's Jolly or Adamant. Versus my team, you can definitely get away with running Adamant, although I think he ran Jolly last time, maybe to creep like Adamant Aerodactyl. But not sure if he would do that again this time coming into the match. Although I did switch up my item here from Life Orb to Eject Pack. I felt like last time I mentioned the Tangrowth just kept coming in and walling Latios over and over again, so what I could potentially do this time is predicting him to go for like knockoff in front of the Latios. I could Calm Mind up on the switch into AV Tangrowth, Draco, get a huge chunk of damage off. I am Modest Nature, so I'm going to hit quite hard. And not quite max special attack, but still going to hit quite hard at +1 with a Draco Meteor. Draco into the Tangrowth, get the Eject Pack out into something like Aerodactyl, predicting the knockoff, and then just pressure his team with a Wing Attack that way. So that was kind of my thought going into the game of how the Latios was going to function. That would also allow me opportunities to get into things like my Girder, which I'll address in a little bit here, or my Jellicent, and pressure his team with those. So I felt like Eject Pack overall was just a good bring this match, and I don't super need it, so I don't mind if he knocks it off at some point in the game either. But getting the Eject Pack, Draco Meteor into one of my threats, especially like my Girder, could be really nice this matchup. Next up is Shuriken the Mega Aerodactyl. I brought a very similar set last time. This one's a little bit bulkier again to help deal with the Talonflame and the Mega Lopunny. I think last time I ran max attack, but this time I elected to knock that back a little bit, run max HP, and I do have a little bit of Spadef in there to lift things like Scarf, Nidoking, Thunderbolt, and things like that. But overall, best Nidoking check, best Lopunny check. Not that it's a great defensive switch into either, but it can take hits and threaten them out with Wing Attack and Earthquake respectively, or maybe reverse that. And Taunt obviously is there to stop the Swampert from doing its Rest Talk shenanigans versus me, as well as shut down things like Setup for Uniclus, which could be a problem for my team since I elected not to bring Drapion this time. And last move is obviously Roost for some longevity this match. Next up, I've got Girder. Last time I made the mistake of running Fire Punch on Girder just to immediately threaten the Scizor, but this time I decided to change that out and run Bulk Up. Otherwise, just running Dual Fighting Stab plus Knockoff, Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Knockoff, and Bulk Up. Hits pretty much everything on his team. Talonflame, I think he showed as his main switch in last time, and that's not really going to deal very well with a Bulk Up set, because if I knock him off at +1, first of all, he's not 2 at KOing me once I hit +1 with Brave Bird, so that's one thing. But if I knock him off at +1, that's going to put him down into around the yellow, 33% type of range. If he goes for Roost, I can just Drain Punch, not only do massive damage to the Talonflame and keep it low, but also get all my health back. So between that and having like Aerodactyl and Rotom Heat around for the Talonflame, I wasn't threatened enough by it to bother running anything else like Thunder Punch or whatever. And Bulk Up Girder can still beat a banded version of Scizor potentially, assuming I get set up properly and everything. So I just felt like the Bulk Up was a much better option this time. I have opportunities to set up on things like Tangrowth, Swampert. Tangrowth, I obviously need to worry about it knocking off my Eviolite, but I don't super mind if he's going to allow me to get up 2 Bulk Ups and then really start to go to town on his team with Drain Punch and Mach Punch. Mach Punch obviously is great to pick off things like Hydreigon. Lopunny will do massive damage to both of those. And Drain Punch should keep the Girder around long enough to do some massive damage to his team, at least poke a hole somewhere. Last time I failed kind of to poke a hole in the Tangrowth Swampert defensive core until it was too late in the game. This time if Girder can do it early, that'll be really beneficial for me. Lastly here, I've got Pennybags of Jellicent. Last time I left Jellicent on the bench in favor of the Drapion. This time I brought Jellicent instead, but because it left me a little bit weaker to things like Hydreigon, I did elect to run Colbur Berry Jellicent. Not only does this allow me to take a Dark Pulse from the Hydreigon and hit it with a big Dazzling Gleam, which I do have on this set, but it also obviously will protect me from knockoff from Scizor if he's banded or whatever he might be. So I was going back and forth between Helmet and Colbur Berry, but I felt like I was a little bit weak to Hydreigon without Colbur Berry, so I elected to run that instead. Otherwise, Scald, Hex, Dazzling Gleam, and Recover. I opted for Scald over Taunt or anything like that, just because I can help me spread burn around his... I opted for Hex over Taunt or anything like that, because I can get burns on his team with Scald and things like Reuniclus, for example, which really this Jellicent set doesn't actually deal that well with. If I do end up getting some status on it at some point during the match with the Jellicent Scald or Toxic from Rotom Heat or anything like that, Hex is going to be doing plenty that I don't need to worry about running things like Taunt on the Jellicent in the long run. I elected for Recover over Strength Sap just because I felt like Recover is just more reliable generally versus team. Things like Tangrowth would want to come in on me, but Strength Sap's not going to heal that much comparatively. Recover just seems like some nice consistent recovery for me if I do need to sit in front of something like a status Lopunny or anything like that. Keeping, or I guess the Swampert as well. Just keeping the Jellicent consistently healthy and able to sit on things was important to me, especially if it brings another Rest Talk variant of Swampert that lacks Toxic, which he did last time. Jellicent can wall that thing all day, and because I'd be running Recover over Strength Sap, I really wouldn't have to worry about my HP getting whittled down. Alright, so that's about all I think for the matchup here coming in. He brought, I believe, the same 6 Pokemon as last time, and I'm kind of looking at lead, assuming that many of them are going to be the same set as last time. Because he didn't bring Reuniclus, he almost definitely brought AV Tangrowth again, because really the only other good check to Latios on his team is AV Reuniclus. So that's definitely AV Tangrowth again. I'm expecting a bulkier kind of Will-O-Wisp type of variant of Talonflame, just because it's not getting through Aerodactyl either way. So he might as well be able to burn it on the switch in or something like that. Pretty standard, expecting Life Orb type of Nidoking. Definitely gonna have to scout out Swampert a little bit. Like I said, I am expecting the Rest Talk set to come again just because it was so effective last time, but A Stealth Rock Swampert could definitely have potential. Something like Stealth Rock Roar would certainly be an option for him. Scizor, Bandit, or Swords Dance, like I mentioned last time he was banded, so I'm more or less prepared for that. But certainly Swords Dance could be an option he runs as well, with like Bullet Punch, Knockoff, Quick Attack, something like that. Would make sense for my team. The Lopunny, like I said, I think last time he may have run Jolly because the damage calcs it just didn't seem like he was doing as much as he could have been doing. But I am partially expecting him to run Adamant this time because I have a huge speed gap between Aerodactyl and Latios that he could take advantage of there. Alternatively, he could run a bunch of Bulk, or honestly both, run Bulk and Adamant Nature versus me, just because like my Latios doesn't really have much to creep, so I've crept down a lot myself. He can greed creep that pretty easily with his Lopunny, run Adamant, run a bunch of Bulk, and not worry too much about things like Mach Punch from Girder, for example. But those are just kind of my general thoughts looking at the game. I think last time I led off with Girder just because I felt like it didn't really have a bad matchup outside of Talonflame, and it still really doesn't. But I'd much rather, excuse me, looking at what he ended up bringing, I would much rather lead off with the Aerodactyl here. Just get my Mega early and not allow myself to be immediately pressured by something like the Talonflame. So he did end up leading with the Talonflame, and I just clicked Taunt. If he wanted to stay in and click Will-O-Wisp, predicting me to over-predict there, Taunt obviously would have shut that down. So it was pretty much no drawback for me, and it prevents the Swampert from potentially getting up Stealth Rocks. Also allowing me a free switch into my Jellicent. I'm going to slow it down a little bit here. Also allowing me a free switch into my Jellicent on the Taunted Swampert to just spam Scald at his team. Burning anything is nice. Obviously, the Talonflame can't be burned, but it doesn't want to eat a Scald. So spamming Scald seems pretty good at this point in the match. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Here I predict him to kind of go for knockoff because it's the best move versus my team at this point. So I'm just going to try and get that Scald burn off on Tangrowth, really compromise its bulk over the course of the match. And that's going to be super helpful for my Latios in the long run. So here he goes for Sludge Bomb. Thankfully, it does not poison me. Jellicent's pretty much in here. Like, Hex can do a little bit to the Tangrowth, but I don't want to take a Grass move and give him health back with Giga Drain and whatnot. So I'm just going to go out to Arrow here. There's not a whole lot he's going to do to me, and I don't mind too much if he poisons me. So here the Energy Ball comes out as the Arrow comes in, and this is a pretty free Wing Attack for me, obviously, but he should go Swampert, fearing the Wing Attack. So what I do is double into Girder, and use this as my opportunity to get my Girder set up. Like I said, last time he brought Restock Swampert, that can't really touch Girder. And Girder has kind of a field day versus team, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately start bulking up and pressure his defensive core here, which seems to be the Swampert, Talonflame, and Tangrowth. So I bulk up here on the Talonflame switch in, and as I mentioned, this thing does not 2-hit KO me at +1. So I'm just going to freely knock off here and do some big damage to the Talonflame. He actually Toxics me and gives me my Guts, which is great. Obviously Toxic will compromise my overall longevity, but being able to knock off this thing's boots means that if I get rocks up later, like, this Talonflame's never coming back in, because I can just spam Drain Punch now. He really doesn't have a good switch in for it, and if he wants his Talonflame back after rocks, he's going to have to roost here. So I'm just going to Drain Punch here, do a ton of damage to the Talonflame, and get back to full, and now he is in Mach Punch range. So while I could predict here and just go for another Drain Punch, that doesn't really feel worth it to me when I have a chance to KO the Talonflame right now. So what I'm going to do is go for Mach Punch and either knock out the Talonflame or do a decent chip to whatever comes in. He does elect to bring the Swampert in, and this is kind of what I mentioned at the beginning of the game, where I wanted to use Girder to help break through his defensive core. So Swampert comes out here and does not show leftovers, so I'm thinking he might be like a Resto Chesto set. So what I like to do over Drain Punching is actually knock off this turn. Maybe that was a misplay. It turns out he was actually Yachi Berry for Freeze Dry Ammo, which is something I did consider bringing, but yeah, I felt like it was worth risking on this turn to go for knockoff, because if he was Resto Chesto, he could have easily just done that there, and now I'm taking Toxic Chip for no reason. So I felt like knockoff was a better play there, as he goes for a rest and does reveal that he is a rest Swampert again. So I'm immediately thinking that he's the rest Talk set, but Latios really can't be touched by him, so I'm going to start Calm Minding here, and this is kind of a weird play. So turn 14 here, or I guess it's 15 coming up. I've got Latios in front of a Burn Tangrowth. Like, he really can't do much to me after I've Calm Minded here. The worst he could really do to me is Sludge Bomb and poison me. So what I like to do is actually just take my KO. In retrospect, maybe what I could have done was use my Eject Pack there, Draco Meteor, and get out into my Aerodactyl to roost up. But I felt like just forcing my KO at this point in the match, at least at this, like what I was thinking at the time was, if I force my KO here, I'll have done what I set out to do, which is break the team early. And Latios was like guaranteed to do that at this point in the match, right? So just Calm Mighty in this Tangro's face a second time guarantees that something will be dropping to the combination of Draco plus Mystical Fire. And I decided to take that over using my eject pack and going into Aerodactyl. Maybe a little bit of a misplay because I could have healed up my Aerodactyl a little bit by getting it in on the eject pack into what I was assuming to be a knockoff this turn. But like I said, I'm going to take my KO this turn by just clicking Draco Meteor. He elects to sack the Talonflame, which is fine by me. Talonflame wasn't doing a whole lot versus my team at this point in the match anyways. Like I mentioned, if I did get up rocks, it was dead to rocks, so probably the right sack on his part to go out into the Talonflame here. And this is going to be the first of many opportunities in which he's able to bring in Lopunny after I KO'd something. And what he reveals to me is that he is adamant Lopunny with Retaliate. So not wanting to risk anything with my Latios here, I feel like it could still be in quite a good position later versus Swampert. I do switch out into the Aerodactyl here as he goes for Retaliate here and actually does quite a chunk to my Aerodactyl on the switch in. So I come in here obviously expecting a normal type move or U-turn to want to come out, but he goes for that Adamant Retaliate and does 42% to me, which is crazy because I am max HP Aerodactyl. And here we got another kind of weird play. So in mocks coming into this game, the reason I was getting smashed in mocks all the time is because I kept predicting in front of the Lopunny and going for Roost. So maybe this is a situation where I might have over-mocked for the game, but what would happen is I would go into Aerodactyl on the normal type move versus the Lopunny. It would hit me with it, and then I'd be low enough where I'd be like, I kind of want some health back, go for a Roost and get smacked with a close combat, and then essentially lose the game from there because I don't have a great offensive response left to the Lopunny. So maybe kind of over-mocked there a little bit and ended up going for Wing Attack this turn, thinking he might decide to stay in, predicting a Roost, but since I hadn't shown Roost at this point in the match, maybe that was a little bit too aggressive. In either case, the Scizor comes out, takes a decent chunk from the Wing Attack and doesn't show an item. Goes immediately for Bullet Punch, and that's banded damage. I know for sure that's Choice Band Scizor coming in, so that's great information to have for later in the game. Here, you're certainly not staying in to Bullet Punch the Rotom Heat again, so I predicted the Nidoking to come out, and either that or the Swampert, I guess, to come out. So I predict that and go into my Mamoswine. Either way, I was happy to sack off Mamoswine just to get rocks up here. So I'm going to go for Stealth Rock, predicting him to save the Nidoking, but he makes a good play there and actually Earth Powers me. And here I Ice Shard, and he gets me again and gets up his Stealth Rock, so obviously it would have been better for me had I Earthquake this turn and just KO'd the Nidoking, because he was going to get Stealth Rocks up either way, and at least I would have taken one less turn of Life Orb chip, but good plays on his end, getting his rocks up and getting some good damage off on my Mamoswine and making it not as much of a threat to his team in the late game. I now only have one rock switch in left, and he's able to take advantage of that with Lopunny here, so basically what I'm thinking is, like, if he has Fake Out, I can potentially use this Lopunny as an opportunity to get my Arrow back in, because it does also survive rocks. I could potentially get that back in and Roost, but he actually reveals Quick Attack here on the Lopunny instead, so that means my Arrow is actually basically useless at this point in the game. It can't safely Roost on anything except like Tangrowth, and there's not a whole lot of situations where I'm going to be able to manufacture Arrow being in on Tangrowth. So in either case, I'm going to go out into my Jellicent here as the Lopunny just U-turns out. I'm just going to recover up and get healthy again. Now that Arrow is more or less dead because the Lopunny has shown Quick Attack, and my Girder is so low, I need Jellicent healthy to be able to deal with the Lopunny in the late game. So I get that off, and here I make kind of a misplay, and I allow him to keep pestering my Jellicent. Maybe the first time going for Hex is fine, as I think he went for Knockoff this turn. But what I ended up electing to do in this sequence is I like to stay in against the Tangrowth, and in retrospect, I probably should have kept the Jellicent healthier and just sacked off like the Aerodactyl at this point. What that would have done was allowed me a free switch into my Latios to just click Draco Meteor at this point in the match. Like the Tangrowth is low enough that Draco Meteor should have KO'd at the range it was at, but instead I play this kind of Recover and Energy Ball game, expecting him to save the Tangrowth to deal with the Latios, which maybe was an oversight on my part, since he kind of deals well with Latios with a combination of Lopunny plus Scizor, since he knows I'm not Choice Scarf. So this is just kind of a situation that I misread and allowed my Jellicent, unfortunately, to get chipped down. But he's able to get quite a bit off on me with Energy Ball there, and really now my only opportunity to heal it up is on a Choice Locked Banded Bullet Punch from the Scizor, or the Swampert. Being in front of the Swampert, I can certainly recover up on that thing. So in either case, I'm definitely threatened by a Retaliate here as he goes out into the low punny once again. As I mentioned, Aerodactyl's dead at this point in the match either way, so Retaliate into the Aerodactyl slot is fine. Here, I kind of have to revenge with either Girder or Rotom Heat, and Rotom Heat's not KOing this low punny. So what I like to do is actually just take my chip with Girder. I felt like this was really all it was around for anyways, was getting the Mach Punch damage off onto the low punny. And yeah, that was kind of the play at that point. So if Rotom Heat comes out here, I do live his Adamant Close Combat, so he does have to switch out here, because low punny is really his win con at this point in the match, otherwise he just loses to Latios. So what I'm going to do here is just Overheat, because it's a safe play, you know, try to take the low punny if he wants to give it to me. And here I'm like, okay, he can't just allow Jellicent to come in for free, or Latios to come in for free versus Swampert. He has to switch out here, because if either Latios or Jellicent comes in for free, I have the sack advantage, because I'm going to be able to KO something that next turn on the Swampert. So what I predict is for him to swap out the, take out the Swampert and go into Scizor. So I just clicked Overheat again, because I knew he had to make that play. He was in the back if I got in something else. He had to make that play there, I think. And I call it, and I miss the Overheat on the Scizor coming in. So looking at it, like, just at face value this turn, you're like, wow, that sucks, right? Like, I made the play, I missed the Overheat. I would have had the sack advantage immediately that I had been looking for. But if you consider kind of the scope of things, if I hit that Overheat, low punny still gets to come in and claim one with Retaliate anyways. I'd probably sack off Latios at that point if I had to guess. Either Latios or Jellicent certainly gets sacked off in that situation. Not Rotom Heat, because I need it for Scizor, but either Latios or Jellicent needs to get sacked off in that case. And then I still end up needing to make some plays later to end up winning this game. So I think in the long run, even though it looks really bad on paper that this Overheat missed, I don't think it impacted the results of the game. Regardless here, the Scizor comes out, and now it's sitting in front of my Rotom Heat. I'm like, okay, the play I need to make here, regardless, is I need to get Jellicent in front of the Swampert so I can recover up on it. I don't think he's going to sack off Scizor at this point in the game, because it gives him a lot of insurance against Latios. So what I think he's going to do here is go out into Swampert, and this is my opportunity to get in my Jellicent. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch out of my Rotom into my Jellicent, predicting the Swampert to want to come out, and it does. So huge play for me to get that right, because now I'm able to recover up on my Jellicent. And that's going to be enough health to get me out of range of Adamant Retaliate, or at least Adamant Close Combat from the low punny. So now all I really need to do is get a sack advantage. Regardless of what he's clicking here, I just go into Rotom Heat, and I can basically make the same play again, predicting the Swampert to want to come out, or I can just Pain Split up on the Swampert, keep it low, which is fine with me, because Rotom Heat's still pretty useful in this game, able to take bullet punches from the Scizor. And going into my Latios on Swampert is absolutely 100% free. The only thing that he could have done to punish this play was go hard out into low punny on the Rotom Heat. And I didn't think he would make that play, just because low punny is so valuable to his team at this stage of the game that if he was going to risk it on that turn, he could have just lost on the spot, basically, is what I'm saying, if he risked it versus the Rotom Heat. So I like to go out into Latios here on the Swampert, as it appears he does not have Sleep Talk. So I'm not quite sure what the Swampert set ended up being, but it appears that he does not have Sleep Talk. And now this is what I need. I need to get the sack advantage in this situation, because low punny's going to claim one every time I kill something. So I need to make sure that I have the advantage in sacks at this point, and Latios is going to be able to do just that. There's absolutely nothing he can knock me out with on his team, as long as I just Calm Mind here in front of this Swampert. I don't super mind that I'm going to get burned by Scald here, because my bulk is not the issue here. Like, low punny is going to blow me out of the water with Adamant Retaliate. That's no question. And I live Bullet Punch regardless from Scizor at this range, because I'm quite a bulky Latios. So in either case, being burned does absolutely no damage to me. I just want to ensure that I'm going to pick up my KO by clicking the Draco Meteor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sack off the Latios, because I do think it's the least useful member of the team at this point. Go out into my Jellicent, and I have no reason not to recover up here. Again, I'm out of range of close combat from the low punny, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to recover up to a good amount of HP to make sure I can deal with the low punny later. And here I guess you've got another kind of something of a 50-50. If he stays in here and goes for knockoff into my Jellicent, and I leave the Jellicent in, I lose, basically. But if he goes for knockoff, I should be able to live it with Rotom Heat, as you see here. I should be able to live it with Rotom Heat, and I know he's Choice Banded, which means all I need to do is click Overheat, and I pick up a KO. So either picking up the KO on low punny would be fine, because he can't lock himself into knockoff to win the game, because -2 Overheat still knocks out the Scizor. So he'd have to lock himself to knock off to beat Jellicent, but if he locks himself into Bullet Punch, he may KO the Rotom, but he can't beat the Jellicent. That's basically what I'm saying. So Overheat there was a guaranteed KO, as long as it hit. And thankfully it did there, and it's able to KO the Scizor. And now all I have to do is sack off my Rotom Heat. That means he can't retaliate and get the big boost damage on my Jellicent. And Rotom Heat plus Jellicent should win me this game. So Lopunny's going to come out here, retaliate once again. GG's drop in the chat. Jellicent comes out here, and alright, so here's the thing. I get crit by close combat, right? And I die, so I lose, right? And outside of how hilarious this is, well, maybe it wasn't so hilarious at the time, but in retrospect, it's kind of hilarious. Adamant close combat at that range from my Jellicent, which was pretty close to max defense, was actually not even a guaranteed KO. So it's not even that he needed a crit to win. He needed a crit, and I believe it was like a 50-50 roll on the crit or something like that. So the odds of that happening, I think, are somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2%. So I had a 98% win con there, just kind of like played my way back into a 98% win con, and I ended up getting crit in the end. So like, that's Pokemon. What are you gonna do about that? Like, I get crit by the Jellicent, and I get crit on my Jellicent, and I lose. Really, obviously, unfortunate end to this LD season. I felt like starting the season 1 and 3, I was like not in a great place. I was still focused. I was still trying, but I felt like something just wasn't clicking at that point in the game. I made the drops. I dropped Melmetal, dropped Tangela, picked up Serperior. I also dropped Kamala. I picked up Serperior. I picked up Metagross. And those Pokemon I felt like were really going to help me later in the season. I ended up kind of turning it around. I win, I think, 4 games in a row to get to 5 and 3. Maybe it was 5 games in a row to get to 6 and 3, and then I lost my final game. Finished the season at 6 and 4. So I was really like proud of how I dug myself out of the hole early in the season, made it to playoffs, got the rematch versus Nunes. I felt like I brought the right team. I didn't play great in the mid game. I would say I let a lot of my Lopunny checks get weakened, which I kind of hit on a little bit as we went. But I let a lot of my Lopunny checks get weakened. I put myself in a position to lose the game, unfortunately. But then later in the match, I end up working it back. I get the Jellicent in front of the Swampert. I get it recovered up. It's now able to deal with the Lopunny. I get it recovered up again to basically full health after Stealth Rocks, or prior to Stealth Rocks. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a great position to win, and I end up getting crit by the Lopunny. I'm like, oh, man. Rough end to the season. Great game to Nunes. Like, that was a really fun game, result notwithstanding. Like, everybody drops the clover on this game because, I did have a 98% chance to win the game, but man, was that a fun game. Like, that was a great game to end on, outside of the fact that it's not necessarily how I wanted to end my season. It just kind of was fitting, like, you're feeling like taking a break from Pokemon already. I actually had to just announce that I was taking my break after the season was over. I think I announced it maybe 3 or 4 days before this match, that I would be taking a break. And then something like this happens, you're like, that's why I'm taking a break. So I'm really glad that I announced before this game happened, so it didn't just look like I was salty. Because I really wasn't actually, I was upset certainly that I didn't win, because I did feel like I played very well this game, at least in the late game, to get back in it and get myself in a position to win. So that's, certainly upsetting from that standpoint, but I really wasn't like that angry after this game. Like, it happens, it's Pokemon. You got to move on, right? And that's got to be the attitude that you have going forward. I'm hoping that I can bring that attitude back and keep playing at some point. I'm really just, as I kind of mentioned in my Google post, I really just wasn't, it's not that I wasn't having fun playing and prepping anymore. It was just like I was getting nervous for some reason coming into games. I don't know if it's just expectations of people for me to play well or my own expectations that I would play well. But kind of the more I won, the more I played well in other leagues, kind of the more pressure I put on myself to continue to do well, right? Like, I want to show, okay, like this result is for real. Like, I won the OLT tournament maybe a few months back now, 6-9 months back. I won the OLT tournament, and I was like feeling pretty good after that. I played pretty well in some of the team tours and things like that, and I wanted to show, like, that's not a fluke. I wanted to do well, keep doing well, but somehow in that process, totally unconsciously, I ended up getting a little bit nervous coming into games because I wanted to do well so badly. that I was like putting too much pressure on myself. So if I can find a way to not put that much pressure on myself and kind of take things in stride a little bit better, I think that's the point at which I'll come back. As for how I'll know when that's time is ready, not really sure. Like I said, I am feeling the itch to play again. Maybe I'll jump into like one league or so. Just kind of test the waters, see how I'm feeling before games and things like that. If I'm feeling good, maybe I'll add a second league. Main thing is not to overburden myself. I really want to cap it at like 2 leagues at a time. I think 3 or more is a lot for me right now. But if I can cap it at 2 leagues and I'm feeling good going into and out of games, I'm not getting that kind of giant pit in my stomach that I was feeling before matches, then certainly I'll come back. But like I said, I'll probably test the waters a little bit, especially now that some of the new Pokemon are coming out. I want to get my hands on them and see how they do. But I'm not sure when it'll be still. So TBD on return date. Maybe it'll be LD again if they'll have me back. Maybe it'll be like DPL or something like that, which I think is around the corner as well. So keep an eye out. I may upload some more videos as well, you know, time permitting, IRL stuff. I have a whole bunch of stuff from my most recent VPL run that I could share with you guys, and maybe that would be more helpful to some of my more inexperienced viewers, because I know some of you guys who would be coming over from the Villanova Discord might not be as experienced playing the game, especially in draft. And I feel like I can offer some useful insight there on some of my matches and things like that. So if I do upload more coming forward, that would be what I'm uploading. And then obviously if I do come back for LD another season, I'll probably upload those as well. But thank you guys for sticking with me throughout this season. Obviously ended kind of poorly on the crit there, but you know, Mons is Mons, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. I'm very happy with how I did this season in LD. The start of it notwithstanding, I felt like that was more of a draft issue than a playing issue. It was just like the team I drafted was a little clunky, didn't quite work right, and I felt like after the transactions I really hit my stride. And I think I went, after the transactions, I believe I went 6-1, if I'm not mistaken. So I know I can compete at this level. I know I can do it. It's just a matter of whether I can get kind of my psyche there as well, to be able to do so going forward. So thank you guys for sticking with me throughout the season. I hope to see you guys in another video, and I hope to come back to Pokemon and play again at some point. I would really be looking forward to doing so. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.